Well, I think it's safe to say that this project, the simple project, has escalated pretty quickly. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Moonbuilt Garage. Today, I'm doing a full teardown inspection of a 46 RH automatic transmission that I pulled out of a 91 Ramcharger to run in my 75 Dodge D100 shop truck project. What started out as a simple torque converter change led to replacing the seals around the front pump because they were leaking, which then led to having to tear the transmission all the way down to remove a broken overdrive piston support. In order to get this off the back of the case, there's a retaining ring that rides right here. In order to get to that, you gotta pretty much gut the transmission. So, since I have everything out, I might as well do a full inspection and see what else I may need to replace at this point. So here's how pretty much everything sits within the case of the transmission. You got your input shaft, which comes through the center of the pump, and this is where the snout of the torque converter rides. All the way out through the transmission to the intermediate shaft, which then goes out into the overdrive section out the tail shaft. I'm not going to be messing with the overdrive unit today. I'm really just going to focus on the main part of the transmission. Now, in preparing for this, like I said, I've already got that overdrive piston support on order. I'm trying to keep everything together. I got the snap ring here that actually goes there and holds it onto the shaft. I'm just keeping everything together. But in preparation for all this, I did print out a full illustrated parts breakdown of this transmission along with a parts list. So every part on here is numbered and it's got the associated list of all those parts so that I can, you know, once I see something here that needs addressing, I can look up the part on the illustrated parts breakdown, get the item number, and get stuff on order. I do have a notebook over here that I will be just kind of keeping track of everything on, and I'm just going to start at the front, work my way back. So in my last video, I did replace this O-ring that goes around the pump along with the gasket that sits between the pump and the case. I did that because there was a leak along the bottom of the pump here that I found when I pulled the torque converter out. The kit that I got that came with those two gaskets also came with a new bushing and a new gasket for the front, or a new seal on the front, and I wasn't going to worry about that at that time. I didn't want to worry about tearing into the pump, but since I'm here at this stage now, I might as well. So I went ahead and I removed these bolts from the pump. These are just 1/2-inch bolts. Got that removed, and then I pulled the actual pump assembly out of the center. And then, so what I want to do is I want to inspect this whole area, both, you know, all the faces inside there, along with the edges of the pump. I don't see any abnormal wear. There's no scoring, so I'm not going to worry about replacing the pump at all. Also, I can see this, so that bushing that I got is right here, along with the seal that actually goes right there. This seal looked good. Like I said, there's no indication of any tears or splits or wear on this seal. And same with the bushing inside here. I'm looking at this bushing right here. There's no abnormal wear. Everything looks good on that bushing. So I'm just going to go ahead and run what's already here. So I can, for now, just drop these back in. And then I'm also going to inspect this section of the pump. Now I'm looking at, there are seals. There's a ring seal right here and right here. These both look good. I don't see any indications of anything wrong with those, along with this washer right here. Again, I don't see any. I'm also looking at all the gears, looking down at the bushings inside here. or bushing, I should say. And I don't see any indication of any abnormal wear or anything like that. So I'm going to call the pump assembly good. So for a couple of minutes of inspection, just give them warm and fuzzy. I'm going to button this back up, and then we'll move on to the start messing with the planetaries and stuff like that. All right, so continuing with going from the front of the transmission to the back, looked at the pump, that was good. So now I want to look at the front band. And the front band is what goes around the direct drum. So I'm going to look at the band material, and this actually looks really good. There's a lot of band material left on there. I'm not seeing any scoring or any burning or anything like that. This front band looks really good. So I'm not going to worry about replacing that. So now I'm going to move on to doing the direct drum. All right, with the pump inspected and the front band, we can move on to the direct drum. Now, a good indication of how worn your clutches and steels in there might be is how difficult this is to remove. If your clutches and steels, there's a good chance that those could get warped due to excessive heat, and in which case, this could be really difficult to remove, and it may actually cause other issues inside here. So this direct drum, though, comes right off. There's before I dig into the direct drum, I want to look at these gear teeth on here. If your clutches and steels get warped enough or they get damaged enough, they could actually wear into these teeth. So I'm just going to give these a quick look over. I don't see any damage to these teeth, which is good. So I'm hoping that means that my clutches and steels may not be that worn. Even though I've been seeing a lot of high temps, the wear may not be that bad in here, but we'll find out. So in order to get in there, first thing we gotta do is remove this snap ring. This is actually a wavy snap ring. So we're gonna come in here with a screwdriver. This one might not work. Grab another one. There we go. Take the snap ring out. And now we can start pulling plates out. So first thing I want to do, pull this plate, give it a good look. I don't see any burning, scoring, nothing. This thing looks literally brand new. I mean, look at that thing. There is no blackening on there. And I see this first clutch, and this thing has been recently rebuilt. I mean, that clutch, look at that. That thing is brand new. Now what I'm doing is I'm laying these parts in exactly how they came out. So I'm flipping them over so they go right back in the same exact way. I'm gonna pull this next steel out. Again, a little bit of almost looks like the bluing or something is coming off there. Just the slightest amount of any kind of wear. I mean, like I said, I think this transmission, I said I did get this from a pick-apart. I don't know why that Ramcharger was in the pick-apart to begin with, but somebody had to be pissed because it looks like they just rebuilt this, or at least reconditioned this transmission, which, thinking back, makes sense, because when I got the transmission, and if you go back and look at my past videos, when I opened it up, when I cleaned it up, I opened up the pan just to look inside the pan, and somebody had used all the RTV to reattach the pan to the case. So obviously somebody had been in here, and yeah, these are brand new clutches, which is good. That gives me a lot of hope that the rest of this inspection will go just as well. But yeah, so those all look good. I could continue to tear down into the rest of this drum, but like I said, the way those look tells me that somebody's been in here. I don't see any, there's no indication of anything being wrong. I see that all the springs are in there. 3 sets of 3. I really don't want to try to mess with my press to get this pressed down and pop this out of here. So yeah, I'm going to put this back together and go on to the next step. All right, I got the direct drum all back together, and while I was reassembling it, I also was looking at this bushing right here. Again, there's no signs of any excessive wear or scoring or anything on this bushing here. So everything that has to do with the direct drum looks really good. So now I'm going to move on to the forward drum. First thing I did, I already inspected all the teeth along this gear here. So these all look good. Now there are 3 seals on the input shaft. There's one right here, and there's a third one right here. Again, I'm gonna inspect those, make sure that they turn freely, that there's no wear, no nicks, gouges, nothing like that. There's also a spacer, little right here. So the good thing is, so far, if I don't really have to replace anything, is I'm not gonna have to worry too much about any tolerances, because this thing's gonna go back together so far just the way it started. But everything here looks good. So now again, I'm gonna come into the forward drum. I'm gonna remove this retaining ring to get to these steels and clutches here. Problem with this screwdriver is the tip is busted on this one, so it doesn't work great. But the plus side of it is it's already busted. I don't care about that screwdriver. I should probably get a shorter handled screwdriver for this, but I'm just being stubborn. Here we go. That out, and then we can start removing. Again, I'm going to look at all the plates and the clutches and steels, and again, I'm going to look at them exactly the same way. I'm going to put them in, I'm going to stack them exactly how they came out. Again, these look, like brand new clutches. Everything is nice and flat. There's no warping or anything like that, so I don't think there was any real excessive heat. Again, look at that. That thing looks almost brand new. Another one here. Another brand new clutch. Brand new steel. Yeah. Somebody looks like they rebuilt this thing and then took it to the junkyard. Yeah, they were probably not happy about that, because this thing was definitely recently rebuilt. Now, there's this last plate here. Now this, again, everything has to go back in a certain way. This spacer here, this plate, you can see actually has a ridge. Everything, again, looks really good on that. Now, there's a spring, I forget the name of this type of spring right here, but that's held in, again, with another retaining ring. So we're gonna, but right behind this retaining ring is also a plastic ring that goes right underneath it. So you wanna be really careful when removing this retaining ring that you don't get into the plastic one. So just take your time and Yeah, don't damage the plastic ring beneath it. Almost. There we go. Just got to get it started. There's that wavy ring. And like I said, then right below it is this plastic one. This thing out here, again, you know, this thing could be really, real sensitive. Not sensitive, but not fragile. Just got to be careful with it. It is just plastic. I'm just going to look at it, make sure there are no cracks, no deformities, nothing wrong with it. And that all looks good. And now, I should be able to. Yep. Like I said, I forget the name of the spring. It's in the illustrated parts breakdown that I have. You can find them online. Again, I'm going to inspect this, look for any cracks or any deformity. You can see it is supposed to be like a concave shape. This one looks really good. Again, this thing looks brand new. Now we can pull the drum off the gear and inspect the inside of the drum. Again, looking for any signs of anything wrong, and I don't see a thing. Now I could probably go further. Actually, I think this is all one unit. I don't think you can. I don't know. Comment below if you know if you can take this apart further. May be able to, but I'm not going to worry about it. This thing is, yeah, there's no signs of any kind of damage here. So I'm just going to start getting all this back together. Well, apparently there's a piston. Might help if I actually looked at my illustrated parts breakdown to get a better idea, but it's all the way over there, and you know, it'll be fine. Yeah, I was putting it back together and this piston just fell out. So there's two seals, lip seals on this piston. There's one right here on the outside, then there's one along the inside. I don't really want to pull them off if I don't have to. Like I said, I don't see any issues with them. They're nice and pliable. They're not brittle in any way. They're not damaged. So I'm just going to run what I got. I'm thinking these are probably just fine. Now there is also a check ball right there. I can hear it. This check ball is free. It's not clogged up in any way. So you can see it better right there. Shaking around, you can hear it rattle. Just means that there's no grime, no sludge, no debris inside there preventing the flow of that check ball. And if I remember right, I think what that check ball does, it allows any air to get out of the system. That way it's just fluid. There's no air trapped inside this piston. So now I'm just gonna work on getting all this back together. All right, a couple of things you're gonna wanna keep in mind when trying to reinstall that wavy snap ring into your forward drum. So that plastic spacer needs to sit flush with the groove that snap ring goes into, not in that groove. So in order to do that, it helps if you can support the drum without putting any weight on the gear assembly or the input shaft. So I used the case of the transmission and I sat the edge of the drum up on the front here and along the side, and that allowed the center section to hang free. Otherwise it could be pressed up and it could block that groove that the snap ring is supposed to go into. Doing it this way, having some support, made it a lot easier to get that snap ring in place. Something else to keep in mind, watch your gloves. I actually took a couple of little chunks out of my gloves because it got caught between the snap ring and the case and actually tore it, and I had to remove little pieces of nitrile glove from inside the drum. So, you know, I see a lot of people like to do this without gloves. It's up to you. I prefer working with gloves. So just gotta be a little extra vigilant to not get pieces torn off inside. But, you know, having your drum supported and allowing the center section to hang all the way down made getting this snap ring in a lot easier. All right, with everything done and back together on the front section, can now turn our attention to the rear. So this is the reverse drum, the reverse band, which I have right here. Actually, it's what engages that drum, like that. This is usually in the case. Again, this band also looks brand new. I mean, there's all kinds of material. There's still all the lines on it. This looks like a brand new band. So that's all good to go. We have the shell, the front ring gear, direct hub, all that resides in here. So right here on the front, we have two spacers need to come off, and I believe that's to set the play between the front and the rear section. I could be wrong. I think there's different sizes that you put there depending on what your end play is. But again, don't quote me on that. I'm not certain. But with that, with the spacers out, now there's a snap ring right here. And we can take the snap ring off. Of course, my hands are covered in transmission fluid right now. Follow it when it hits the floor. And now you can remove the intermediate shaft. Trying to keep track of everything, all right? We'll set that off to the side and we'll just work on the center section here. So inside the shell, there's the direct hub. So all this can come apart. There's a spacer right here that lives down there, and this one looks really good. And then this we can take apart. We're gonna make sure to inspect all the teeth on all the gears, make sure everything looks good. Just give me a second. I'm not seeing any nicks in any of the teeth or any damage or anything like that. Just gonna set this here for now. There's also, oh, there's a bushing right downside here. That looks really good. There's a spacer right here. All right, this one, looks like I'm gonna have to replace that one. This is just I'll look it up in the parts list, get the part number for that, and I'll get one of these on order. It's probably usable, but I mean, I'm in here. A lot of that copper is worn off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and replace that. But in the meantime, I'm also looking at, this goes on there. That actually goes. So again, just looking down inside here. I don't see any damage to any of the teeth. Nothing like that. So we can get this all back together. I'm not going to bother bolting this together since I got to replace that spacer. I just want to make sure I keep track of everything. Now it goes there. All right, set that off to the side. Pull the reverse drum off. And then look at where the outside surface, where the band rides. Looks all good. Teeth. Everything looks fine with that. There's no pitting. There's no kind of damage or anything like that. All right. Here's another spacer. This one looks fine. Pull that planetary apart. Just gonna set it there. Take the intermediate shaft off. Look at it again. Looking at all the teeth. All looks good. Look at the gears. And this all looks good to go also. So this spacer looks fine. There's no real wear on that one. There's a couple of spots. It's the same. Actually, that's only a 3-tab, so that's a different spacer. That rides right there. And that all looks good to go. So the only thing I really got to replace is that one spacer inside that planetary, or inside that ring gear. But other than that, everything else looks fine. The intermediate shaft, again, there's no like scoring on any of the surfaces where these bushings ride. There's no nicked teeth. No kind of indications of any excessive wear. So I'm going to get all that just kind of put back together just to keep track of everything, keep it all in order. I'm going to get that spacer written down so I know which one I need to order. And the last thing I really want to look at has to do with the valve body. All right, so there's one more part that I want to look at, and it's on the valve body, and it's the overdrive spring, and it's right underneath this plate. So this is the connection for the overdrive, and then the wire connection comes across and goes to the solenoid. But there's a spring in here, and it's kind of known for going bad. I'm probably going to order a new one. I guess there's a new heavy duty option that just kind of gives you a little bit stronger spring. So I'm going to open this up, take a look at it, but I am going to go ahead and order a new one anyway. If my hands weren't covered in trans fluid, I could maybe grip this thing. There we go. Those are just some little Torx bits. So they are actually, what is that? T25 Torx. Take the plate off. And there's the spring. So the spring is in one piece, but I'm just going to go ahead and order a new one anyway, just to beef it up a little bit. All right, so overall, everything looks really good in there. I mean, to have just one worn spacer and then a spring that I want to replace that doesn't really need to be replaced. I mean, you guys saw it, you know, the clutches and the steels looked immaculate, looked brand new. So, you know, that's a good thing. I'm glad to see that, you know, obviously it's less stuff that I got to buy, but I'm also happy to see that even though this transmission was running really hot, it doesn't appear there was any real damage caused, at least to the main part of the transmission. I may do another tear into the overdrive section. I haven't decided yet. Also, when it comes to the pistons in the case, I've got the one pulled. The other two, I may pull them. I haven't decided yet. If you want to pull them, all you got to do is just get a wide clamp down on the piston enough to be able to get those retaining rings out, and then, you know, let up on the clamp and they should come right out. There's some seals, there's some springs, and then obviously some seals on the pistons that might be worth checking out. But other than that, I'm really happy, guys. I'm gonna get those two parts on order, and then once they come in, we'll get all this buttoned up. I appreciate you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll catch you on the next one.